Welcome. I'm so excited, Sandy, to be interviewing you, Sandy Geroux of WOWplace International. Thanks for joining me on this interview series, Successful Speakers.
My pleasure, Linda. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Sure. Now, Sandy, how did you come to do what you're doing today?
Well, it's a funny and a little bit circuitous story, but I'll make it as brief as possible. But you know, us speakers, we have this problem. In fact, I want to put a little joke out there. I've seen a joke about a T-shirt for speakers that says, "Help, I'm speaking and I can't shut up." So I love that.
That makes sense. We get that.
Yes. But how I started really, when I think back to how this all started, I think about one thing. One woman changed my life
Wow.
with one sentence. She said, you'd be a good realtor. I laughed at her when she said that because I had never sold a thing in my life. Up to that point, I'd been in the corporate environment many, many years in administrative roles with administrative leadership roles and research roles, things like that. But I'd been in the corporate world and had never been on my own. But you know what? At that point, I was in a job with a person I absolutely couldn't work for. I hated everything about it. And at first I didn't pay attention to it, but about 3 months later, she repeated it. And this time I was ready to hear it. Sometimes you're not quite ready to hear a good suggestion or to accept a good suggestion the first time you hear it. But this time I was. And I said, wait a minute, she owns a real estate owner. She's an owner broker. She owns an agency. She knows good realtors, and she sees something in me that I don't even see in myself. So I leaped and promptly fell flat on my face because I had never sold anything in my life. But I said, wait a minute. At that point, I was 38 years old. I was not about to quit at that time or fail at that time. So I got more education. I got some training, and I became a top producer within 5 years, within 3 years, actually, and then kept going. And then the gentleman that I was coaching with for real estate asked me to join him in business. And he was a speaker, trainer. He had been bringing me around to the different parts of the country to be on his top producer panels. And through that process, we learned that, wow, I love the speaking. I love training, and people seem to connect with what I had to say. So that's how I got into it. I sold my real estate business. I got into speaking in the real estate training area, but then it quickly became obvious to me that I love doing that, but I really saw a need in the corporate environment. So I slowly switched my business to serve the corporate market instead of independent entrepreneurs and realtors.
And so when you went into the corporate market, I know you didn't speak about real estate.
No, I didn't.
What did you speak about?
Well, what I did then was, it's funny. I joined NSA. After about a year and a half or so, I joined NSA. I joined Toastmasters, where I got some additional insights and different things. But then I joined NSA that taught me how to build a speaking business. And so I looked for, well, what's my background? What did I have some success in the real estate market that might be transferable to? And one of the things that I had spoken on in that market was taking risk. And that transferred very easily because I said, wait a minute, I know how to take risks to advance not only my real estate business, but in the corporate environment, you have to take some reasonable and appropriate risks if you want to go anywhere in your career. And once I learned that, wow, meeting planners put out calls for presentations, which I didn't even know that much when I first started in the corporate market, but NSA taught me that. I went online. I lived in Orlando at the time, and lo and behold, I'm telling you, sometimes, you do need to move forward with action, but sometimes there's a little element of luck. And there was a meeting planner for an administrative professionals conference where I had spent over 20 years in the corporate market, and they had a conference going on in Orlando. So I emailed her and said, hey, here's my background. Here's my topic. No risk, no reward. Do you need a speaker? And boom, within 15 minutes, she came back and said, well, by the way, we have one slot left for a featured speaker. We love your background. We love your topic. do you want the slot? Oh, let me think about that.
No
Yes.
brainer.
And yeah, so that's how I got into the market for administrative professionals. And I've been doing that now for almost 20 years, training them, motivating them, helping them see their positions differently. Because I went all the way from an entry-level assistant all the way up to the assistant to CEO of several different
Wow.
corporations.
Sandy, you said it was luck, but I also think it's timing, isn't it?
I think you're right. Yes, I call it luck, but it's a little bit of timing. It's a little bit of I think it's more action that prepares you for when that lucky opportunity comes along so you can take advantage of it. Because if you can have all the luck in the world, but if you're not prepared to take advantage of it, then it doesn't help you. So yeah, I think there's a combination of things that you have to be prepared. You have to look for those opportunities because they could pass you by. And so if I hadn't prepared, if I hadn't thought about how I can do it, if I hadn't gotten online and looked for those things, I wouldn't have found that Orlando engagement in time to be able to get the last slot that was available. And it went great. I mean, they loved it. My session sold out. They had to close the doors.
Wow.
The AMA was sponsoring that conference at the time. They approached me afterwards and asked me about a book, to write a book. And so, I mean, it's just been an amazing thing, but because I took that first step and thought differently about what can I do? And I think the risk topic helps me do that too, because I'm always looking out for where do I need to take some reasonable and appropriate risks to keep even the speaking engagements going,
Sure.
and keep my audiences engaged.
And just to clarify something, I know what you're talking about with NSA because I'm a member as well, but it's the National Speakers Association.
Yes,
that you were
that's
talking
right.
about, for
National
those who don't
Speakers
know
Association.
what we're talking about. And again, that's not just how to speak, but how to build a business.
Oh yeah, and in fact, that's the whole gamut. You know, when I joined Toastmasters, they don't teach you to build a business. But they do give you opportunities to practice in front of different audiences, try out new material, because you know you can't try out new material usually on a paying audience. So you got to get somewhere. So I think Toastmasters is a great thing for people to join and start getting some expertise and some experience and things like that. But I think the NSA, National Speakers Association, was the thing that changed it for me, because then not only did they have the programs that help teach you that, but I connected with so many colleagues who then you have people you can just pick up the phone and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or do you mind helping me with that? Or what did you do here? And it's been a great resource.
Right, that's great. And you said something about practicing your speaking in Toastmasters. What about speaking for free? Did you, when you started in your career, was that happening? Or tell us a little bit about that.
I did a little bit of that. What I found though was you have to be really strategic when you speak for free. You have to make sure that the people you want to reach who can pay you later are in your audience.
Right.
Because otherwise, what I did at first was they said, oh, speak for free anywhere you can. Well, okay. All that did was spend a lot of time speaking for free only to get more free requests. And it doesn't help. And somebody said, well, you know, you do that for exposure. But then one of my NSA buddies said, Sandy, I'm going to say this. Speakers have died of exposure. You can die of exposure. And it's so true. So if you're going to do free speaking, first of all, you know, a lot of people have a little different take on do free speaking so you can practice and get good. I don't agree with that. I think if you're practicing on any audience, you never know who's in that audience. Right. And you better be pretty darn good to start with before you get in front of an audience. So you practice by yourself. You practice on your friends. You practice on a mastermind. You practice in many areas, but I don't think you practice on an audience. Yeah, you can practice a little. You can try something new, but I think you have to be at a certain level before you ever put yourself out there, because that could turn off the one person who could have opened a huge door for you, and you never get another chance to do that. So I want to put a caution out there. You too? Yeah, so.
It reminds me of a cartoon where there was this little girl practicing her speech in front of all her stuffed animals I think that's safe, right?
That
That's
might be
safe.
safe.
But when you get to real people or potential clients, you have to be careful because what you put out there, you can't always erase. And
That's
that's how
right.
they see you.
That's
Yeah.
right. And the, you might think there's no potential client in this audience, and you never know. I have had things come from left field from something I've done 5 or 6 years prior that all of a sudden they remembered me, they had a need then, and boom, I got the opportunity. And I never even knew a potential client was in that audience. So
Wow.
yeah.
Never know.
No.
Now, what do you enjoy most about the public speaking that you do?
I It's so hard to pick one thing because I love everything about it. I love going out and meeting new people. I love visiting new places. I
Mhm.
mean, the cultures and the countries and the cities that I've been exposed to just because I've been able to go there are amazing. But I think the biggest thing that gives me that jolt is when I know I've reached somebody in that audience. The way that woman who changed my life with one sentence reached me, when I can do that for somebody else and help them look at something a different way, uh, through a story that I might have told that
Mhm.
helps them apply it, or through my enthusiasm and my passion. You can probably see I'm a pretty energetic
Mhm.
speaker just from this interview. I don't do anything small. I'm
Mhm.
Italian. I'm 100% Italian. In fact, my married name is Geroux, but my maiden name is Pettorelli. And that
Oh.
is 100% Italian. But I am passionate about what I do. I'm very energetic, and people comment every single time on my enthusiasm and the passion that I bring to it, because the energy is different. There's a lot of people speaking about customer service or leadership or even administrative professional training, whatever. There's not a whole lot of new information out there unless you're in research or technology, things like that. So people have heard this before. The difference is not the knowledge, the difference is you.
Mhm.
It's your passion, it's your energy, and it's your commitment to showing them another way to look at it. So when you give them a story, they might have heard the same point 17 times before you. But first of all, now they're ready to hear it. And second of all, you may give them a way to think about it that they've never thought about before. And boom, the light goes on. And when I see that light go on, or I see the emails after that, uh, you've made such an impression on me. I really, some of them say, I need you whispering in my ear every day, and I
Wow.
need to listen to that because that's a possible passive income source later on. Maybe I could whisper in their ear every day. So when you're a speaker and you can have the impact, look for also different ways to have that impact, not just through, the physical speaking engagement, which, as we found out this year, was a terrible thing to just
Right.
focus on alone.
Mhm.
We all had to adapt. So,
Mhm.
that's what I enjoy the most when I hear from somebody that I've made a difference to them. There is no better feeling in the world than that.
So let me ask you a question, because as you know, I coach a lot of people with public speaking, and I do talk about the words are important, but the delivery, and that's what you're talking about, that delivery, that passion, that energy is so important.
Yes.
But let me ask you another question. Do you get nervous before you give a big speech? Because I know a lot of people want to hear about that.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. I love what I do, but
Mhm.
I don't get so nervous it paralyzes me. I think what I do is I use that nervous energy
Mhm.
to help me do a better job, to help me make sure that I deliver for my audience. And a lot of people ask me, well, how do you get rid of those nerves? Well, you know how I get rid of them?
How?
I have a little ritual that I do. And the night before every presentation, I don't care if I've given it once or I've given it 500 times. I will flip through the slides that I'm going to present. I'll go through the information, and I will just go through the entire thing one time before I give it, the night before I give it.
Mhm.
And what that does is two things. Number one, it cements, oh yeah, these are the points that I want to put in which places, because sometimes you'll move things around a little bit. You have the same point you can use in multiple presentations. So it cements where I want to put them. but also I love the stories. I love the information so much. It gets me so excited thinking about what I'm going to be able to share with them. And that helps me get over the nerves because I'm so excited about what I'm going to do for them. See, when we focus on what am I going to do for me? What do I look like? How do I?
Right.
We've got to get rid of that focus on, I'm nervous, I'm this, I'm that. No, it's all about them and what we do for them. And I can see that you're right there with me, right, Linda?
Yeah, and I know you didn't attend my master class, but that's exactly what we talk about, right? And it's not the nerve, it's the same feeling of the nervousness, but you said it perfectly. It's excitement. It's energy that helps us perform because without that, we're flat.
Yes.
So
Yes.
embrace that adrenaline and know that I'm not nervous, I'm ready. And
Yes,
that's,
and I'm excited.
and that's exactly what I teach. So it's always great to have it affirmed by somebody who is a professional speaker and has that same feeling, because I think people are shocked when they hear that
Yes.
professional speakers get nervous. But
Yes,
it's not the
they
nervousness,
are.
it's the adrenaline.
Yeah.
So I'm so
And you
glad I
know what?
asked you that question.
And I think the day I lose that is the day I better hang it up, because then it doesn't mean enough to me.
Right.
If I don't get that excitement and that energy and that little bit of nervousness that makes me say, focus on what you're bringing to them, I shouldn't be speaking anymore, because then it's just, I'm going to sleepwalk through my presentation.
Right. We're a servant to the audience, and it's what they need, not what they think of us. Because that's
Right.
that's when we go haywire, when we start
Yes.
worrying about that.
Yeah.
Now,
So, yeah.
Sandy, tell me something unique about you. What do you bring to your presentations, or what about you is different and makes you so special?
Well, one big thing that's different about me is that I'm also a singer.
Mm.
So my whole family is musical. We all sing, we all play several instruments. It's just an amazing, amazing feeling to have grown up in a family where we sang our whole lives. I've been in community theater shows and light opera, things like that. I love to sing, but here's the funny thing. I say that's unusual about me, and I sing in my programs now. I do fun song parodies, I do serious songs. And one of the things that is so funny about this is that when I became a speaker, all of a sudden, this ridiculous set of blinders went on. And I said, okay, I'm a speaker now. The singing's all done, all over with. And I never once thought about incorporating that into my programs until another NSA speaker came to our NSA chapter. I belong to the Central Florida chapter. And she sang in her programs. And I went, what? Could have had a V8. It was an amazing light bulb that went off. I'm like, wait a minute. If she can sing, and look how beautifully she's incorporating that, I could do that too. So I talked to her afterwards, and she had a beautiful song that she allows other NSA speakers to perform, to play, to sing to. She even, sent me, I bought the background track from her so I could sing to it. And it's a very inspiring song. And then at one point, I also thought, gee, but there are some fun song parodies. Maybe I could do a parody at one point. And it's funny when you start thinking differently, again, you're preparing for the opportunity. Well, one day I'm driving down the road, and I was still doing some real estate training at that time, and I was in the transition. On the radio comes a song by Shania Twain called Man, I Feel Like a Woman. Do you know that song? Okay. Fun, upbeat. Well, I'm driving, and all the words to a song parody, Man, I Feel Like a Realtor, blasted into my head. I had to pull over so I could write the words down before I forgot them. And that has been incredible. People tell me now that whenever they hear Shania Twain's song, they can't stop thinking about the words to my song, because I do Man, I Feel Like a Realtor. I do Man, I Feel Administrative. Man, I Feel Underwritten for health underwriters. I mean, it's just been wild. And it's a fun way to start any program and let people know, all right, this is going to be different. And that led me to other things. Like I did a customer service training for a bank one time, and the song by, I forget what her name is now, but it's Let's Hear It for the Boy. Well, I did Let's Hear It for the Bank. I just, and they came up to me at the break and said, you know, we really weren't looking forward to another customer service training program, but we have to go. But we said, as soon as you started with that song, we knew this is going to be different. And it was a blast. So that's one thing that's different. I use the talents that I have, the other talents that I never would have thought about in a million years. So I want to encourage speakers to think about every single thing you bring to the table. Some people dance in theirs. Some people use mime. Some people, one guy, I spoke at an NSA winter conference one time on taking risks and doing different things. And one gentleman was confined to a wheelchair. He was in the audience and he's a speaker. And when I said, I sing, and I started with, man, I feel like a speaker. Of course, I tailored one for our industry. And after my program at lunchtime, a bunch of us were talking to him and he said, you know, I still have the use of my hands. I may not be able to walk, but I used to play the drums. And I wonder if maybe I could do something with a drum. Well, that night, the gentleman who had put the conference together, we were in New Orleans, that he and a couple of other guys scoured all the bars in New Orleans that night to ask somebody to give them a set of drumsticks. And they presented them to that speaker the next day. And he started incorporating drumming into his, I mean, just like me. Oh, I'm a speaker now. I can't sing. Well, I'm a speaker now and I'm in a wheelchair. I can't play the drum. Yes, he could. And everyone was so excited. Some people started putting music and dance and all kinds of stuff into their programs after that. And some people just rap or they rhyme or they create poems, or you can do a lot of things. You don't have to have artistic talent to be able to use it in speaking.
Well, and it's what differentiates you from the other people speaking on similar topics. So
right. And they remember that. One time, the people who worked for the president of the National Association of Realtors while I was doing that bought, man, I feel like a realtor for their president as a Christmas present one year.
Oh, wow. That's great.
It's amazing.
Makes it fun. So as we wind up this interview, I know we can talk for a long time. Like you said, two speakers together want to just keep talking and sharing their experience. And we covered some of these things already, Sandy, but what advice do you offer for the new speakers who are starting out? And we talked about the nervousness, but what other advice do you have for them?
The biggest piece of advice that I have, besides, don't focus on yourself, don't wear new clothes, new shoes, new anything when you speak, because then you'll be tugging at the new scarf or you'll be, uncomfortable in the shoes. And then, being careful and strategic about where you speak for free or reduced fee, things like that. And by the way, even if you speak for free, create a contract that will let them know here's the value and it's being waived, so they don't look at it as a zero value engagement. So that's one piece of it.
Great point.
But the other thing is, do not make the mistake that I did of thinking I'll create a great program, I'll become really good at it, and people will just find me, or I'll do one engagement and then 500 engagements will come from that. I don't have to do any marketing. Please do not ever forget, this is a business. You cannot make it in business if you're a secret speaker. And if you don't market, if you don't reach out, and marketing is different from sales, by the way. Marketing is, you put it out there on Facebook and all that, but you've got to do direct calling, prospecting, sales too, to close anything and to make sure the right people have seen it. I hear too many speakers, even from NSA, saying, I don't market, I never do. Yes, they do. They don't even realize they're marketing, or they've got somebody behind the scenes marketing for them. No, they don't market, but they got a business manager who's out there marketing. Right. If you don't market and you don't sell, you don't survive. So please do not listen to, you don't have to market. If you're good enough, you'll just make it. No, you won't. And please don't make that mistake. So that's the biggest piece of advice I give for not only new, but even established speakers. You're still always having to look for, where else can I serve, but I have to get it out there.
Can't always be satisfied with what's happening right now because there's tomorrow that we have to think about.
Yes, yes.
Sandy, thank you so much for your sage advice and your experience and your enthusiasm. It's wonderful listening. I learn every time I speak to a professional speaker to see what they're doing, and we can share tips. And thanks for joining us on our series with successful speakers.
My pleasure.
Sandy,
Thank you for
if,
having me.
if people want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Well, my email is Sandy, SANDY, at thewowplace.com. That's THEWOW place.com. And of course, that's my website, thewowplace.com. I also have a blog, wowplace.com. So all my phone numbers, everything is on my websites as well. I'd love to hear from anybody. If you need any help or advice, I'm here.
Sandy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Thank you.